I will read your book and watch the video on YouTube. So I know you once also served as the chief Olympic expert for Beijing about the 2008 Olympic Games. So could you share with us some interesting stories about your involvement in the Olympic Games?
That's actually a very interesting and very crazy story. Very crazy. So crazy that people maybe don't believe me, but CCTV made a movie about it. They did a video over 6-7 months, always following me everywhere and shooting the movie. And then later they made the movie. The movie was only like 30 minutes, but it took them like 6-7 months to shoot it. And it was completely crazy. I was also live on the CCTV, where they also asked me the question, you know, what did you do for the Olympics? So what happened is, when China got the Olympics in 2001, it was July, I think they were designated as the city for the Olympics in 2008. Already that time I was in Beijing again, and the government asked me to help to set up a VIP lunch in the Beijing hotel in the top floor. They have the East building on the top floor. They have a special dining room for VIPs. It was in July, and you know, they said, "Oh, Gilbert, you know, we don't know who we can invite because it's July. Nobody is in Beijing. It's holidays. They all went home. So can you help and find people?" I said, "Okay." I did invite several people, like American Chamber of Commerce, European Chamber of Commerce, and some other VIPs I could locate. So the vice mayor was very with me. They said, "Oh my God, this guy, 很厉害, you know,
he's 厉害."
yeah, he really can do special things. So that is the first contact I had. And 6 months later, that was January 2002, was asked for a meeting with what we call in Chinese Beijing Fagaiwei.
Yeah.
At that time, it was actually called the Beijing Planning Commission. And the president asked me for a meeting. So I went to his office. We were just sitting together. And then he said to me, "Oh, Lao Fan, we have a problem." I said, "What problem do you have?" I said, "Yeah, we have the Olympics coming in 2008. We have to build all the stadiums, but we have no money because we have no budget. Everything Beijing has to pay, but Beijing has no money. It was not planned. There is no budget. Can you find the money and can you start up the process for the construction of all the stadia?" I said, "Okay." "Anything else?" "Oh yeah. Think about post-Olympic operation." I said, okay. It sounds crazy, but then the crazy story started because I'm a very stubborn guy, and many people told me, "Oh, Gilbert, it is impossible, your job. You will never find money to invest in sports infrastructure because all the sports infrastructures, they lose money."
Yes.
So you know, I had one minister from Belgium in a dinner, and he told me, "Okay, I admire your enthusiasm, but you will fail because I'm minister. I have been dealing with these things and it is impossible." Okay, but I didn't give up. So I banged on all the doors. I went to all the embassies, American embassy, German embassy, you know, French embassy, whatever. I said, "Okay, I'm Beijing Fagaiwei." And then, "Who's this guy?" And then they called the Ministry of Foreign Trade. And they said, "We have this guy here who says he works for impossible for the Beijing Planning Commission." And then they said, "Yeah, I know this guy. He works for Beijing Fagaiwei. It's okay." And I said to the Chinese government, you know, I said, "Also, sorry, you know, you get all these phone calls. Sorry to disturb. We are very happy. It shows you are so dynamic. You go everywhere. Everybody is calling us, you know." So I also then changed the approach from the government because they wanted to do one tender. And I said to them, "You cannot do this. You have to use 2 steps. The first step is pre-qualification. And then after the pre-qualification, the companies that are approved, they can then go to the final tender." So I had to convince the government. So we did the pre-qualification. I think we found like 180 companies that their willingness to contribute. And then actually I also put together many companies to form a consortium. because in the philosophy was coming from me. We did actually what we call PPP, which stands for Public-Private Partnership.
PPP, yes.
PPP, and
Yes.
in the UK they call it PFI,
Yes.
Private Financing Initiative or something like that. But it's the same. So, but anyway, we called it PPP. So I came with the whole philosophy. So we needed a consortium that brought the money to design the stadium and could build it and could operate it.
Yes.
So, you know, these four things. So this whole philosophy came from me. The government was very happy. Then I changed from Beijing Fagaway to another company. That company is also a state company. It's called Beijing State-Owned Assets Management Company. And then I was also asked to supervise the tender. So we did the tender, and so then we got hit by SARS. Beijing mayor told us, SARS, no guys have to make sure everything is in place because 8 August and 2008, it's Olympics. We cannot delay. You have to do what you want. We don't want to know what you do, but it has to follow the dates. Was really Wang Xishan, a very tough guy. But I like him. He was always very correct, very strict, very capable. This is why later he went up into the government. Is the reason. But then we got hit by another very big problem. The lawyers came to us, and the lawyers told me, well, my approach of the PPP was against the new laws. We could not do this. So, oh my God. So I said, okay, you solve it. We don't want to know. We cannot stop it. So, okay. I had to rediscuss with all the people. So some of the foreign companies pulled out, like some of the French companies, they pulled out because they said we cannot work with this new approach according to the law, and it was a very big problem. So it was really very crazy. And then we had SARS. I had to supervise the tendering documents. So I had to choose together with my people to choose the design of the swimming center.
I see.
So I choose the cube, and everybody agreed because really, the design of the water cube was so fantastic that we all agreed that this is the one we need, and then we had a problem to find number two, and then the government again came to me. They said to me, Lao Fan, you like the water cube, but how can we build this? This is all balloons. What are those balloons? You know, how can we do this? So I became the specialist for the balloons. So I had to go to Germany because this is a technology that is basically a German technology. So I went to visit all the companies involved. I went to visit buildings that were using this approach. It's a very interesting technological way to build swimming pools, because the material used for this so-called balloons is ETFE, which is a little bit like what you have in your kitchen to fry an egg. You have the Tefal, the non-stick. It's the same type of material.
I see.
So it's non-stick. That meaning is the dust and the dirt do not stick on that so-called plastic, which is ETFE. So it's inflated under very high pressure. It's very clever design, but the very big advantage of this plastic, if I may call it, is that first of all, the UV light can go through, while in glass you cannot. UV light cannot go through. In a swimming pool we need UV light because UV light kills the bacteria. So you save a lot of chemical products to disinfect the swimming pool and the surrounding, because the UV light is disinfecting. So it's a very, very technology, because some parts, you know, the sun can go through, other parts the sun can only go a little bit through, other parts the sun cannot go through. So all these bubbles that you see, they are not the same. They are all designed especially for the area underneath. Very complicated. But also that material, they are balloons, they are very light. You could never do a building like that in glass, but it would be too heavy, very heavy. So it's really a wonderful design. But then Okay, that was the easy part, was the membrane, it's called membrane technology. But the big problem I had was with the bird's nest. So I was working for the government, so we received the architect from Switzerland, Mr. Dumeron from Switzerland, and we had the first big meeting. And in the first meeting, and then I said to Mr. Dumeron, you know, you don't want to follow the contract. I mean, you're right, you signed the contract, Beijing doesn't want to follow it. So, I mean, in this case, you know, we stopped the discussion. And the government was so angry with me. So they called me to the office and they say, Lao Fan, you're working for the Chinese side. You're a traitor. You don't defend the Chinese side. And then I said to the government, I said, well, if you sign a shit contract, that is not my problem. You screwed it up. I'm sorry. You know, what can I do? People is, okay, we go back to the meeting. Mr. Dumeron packed his suitcase and went away. And he said to Beijing, you will never build the bird's nest. It's my intellectual property. I don't give it to you. You don't want to follow the contract. Okay, bye-bye. No more bird's nest. So Beijing was, of course, very, very big trouble,
Yes.
because they could not say publicly that the bird's nest was finished, you know, so everybody happy, yes, bird's nest, no more architect. So I was going to Germany, one of my trips, with the Chinese delegation. We went to visit this or visit that, and then I got a call from Beijing. I was in Munich, and I was just in the office of Herzog de Meuron, who was building the new sports arena in Munich. And I got a call from my boss. And my boss said, oh, Lao Fan, you in Herzog de Meuron office? Yes. Don't you go and pay visit to Mr. de Meuron in Switzerland? Okay, I can try that. Okay, so I called the people from the office. I said, can you call Mr. de Meuron for me? Yeah, okay, so they called him, and they had Mr. de Meuron on the line. And they said, oh, Mr. de Meuron, it's we French, you know, together. So, Mr. de Meuron, you remember me? I'm this Belgian guy who kicks you out of the meeting. I said, yes, I remember. Can I come and talk to you? He said, okay, you're welcome. So I took the plane, went to Switzerland, and I had my private meeting with Pierre de Meuron in the garden. We were talking for like 1 or 2 hours, only he and me together. So I explained him the situation, and you know, and I said, okay, please can you reconsider? And okay, with my explanation that I gave, she said, okay, I agree, we can restart the negotiation. So I flew back to Beijing, and everybody waiting. I remember I was so tired, so jet lag. I come home, and then my wife tells me, oh, you must immediately go to Finance Street because for the meeting. They want to know what happened. I say, who wants to know? Everybody knows.
Waiting for you.
But you talk with Mr. Meuron, they immediately want to have a report of what went in the meeting. So, okay, I go to Finance Street, to the office there, and then I make a report of what happened. And then, I say 1 month later or something, I flew again to Switzerland with my big boss. So we had a meeting there, and again, a very big incident, because we were having very big discussion together, something about insurance. And then the Chinese side said, my boss said, yes, you must do this insurance, blah, blah, it's mandatory. And then I said to my boss, I said, sorry, boss, but this insurance, Mr. de Meuron cannot do. He was so angry. I said, are you again defending the foreigners? You're working for the Chinese, you bastard. But then Mr. de Meuron was so shocked that I helped him, because I was right. I mean, I had checked this issue of the insurance. I knew very well that he could really not do it. So, and de Meuron completely turned upside down. In the evening, we signed our agreement. And then I said to my boss, are you still angry with me? You still want to kill me? I said, okay. So this is how I managed to have de Meuron back and to start the construction of the bird's nest. That was a very complicated story. I don't know exactly what happened, but I have been told that I saved Beijing like 30 or 40 million dollars or something like that I managed because we renegotiated the contract with Mr. de Meuron. Mr. Meuron is a fantastic guy. I must say I have a big admiration for him because his design was also really great. He did a lot of concessions. Sadly, because the original design of the bird's nest is different from what it is today, he had to cut to save money. But it's there and it's a fantastic building. So yeah, then I was nominated economic consultant, blah blah blah. The Olympics, they actually wanted to hire me, and I refused. I said no. I worked 2 years for you inside the government. That's more than enough because it's really tough, you know.
Really tough.
Inside the Chinese government, it's so complicated, everything. So I said okay. So I became like a real consultant then later on and helped them. And what I have done in many later on was to explain to foreign delegations what was really happening with the Olympics. Because that time there was a lot of fake information and misunderstanding about the Beijing Olympics. They said that Beijing was spending $36 billion for this Olympics, and how China can spend so big money for the Olympics for blah blah blah. Actually, it was the mistake of the Beijing government, who always presented the wrong figures. And then I explained to the people that is not the real situation. The 36 billion, that was to modernize the city of Beijing. New subway lines, new highways, new flyovers, new hospitals. But the Olympics itself, how much did it cost? Nobody has a correct figure, but I guess maybe 10 billion, but not 36 billion. Like the bird's nest, cost less than $1 billion, much less than $1 billion. You know how much the stadium cost in Tokyo for the Japan Olympics? 2 billion, for much less than 1 billion. No, China, I think, did a wonderful job. So I explained this to all the people, you know, they are building subways and they are stopping pollution and this and that. I think the Olympics were a big success. The only big problem we had with the Olympics is that China was so worried about security, and they did not allow many people to come to Beijing. So many hotels lost a lot of money because they all thought, you know, there would be so many visitors to Beijing. The airlines lost money because the airplanes were empty, the hotels were empty, because much people came to Beijing. And then I complained to the Beijing government, and they said, you know, this is not good, blah blah blah. And they said, the Olympics is made for TV. Let the American people stay home, sit on the couch with the beer and popcorn and watch the TV Olympics. They should not come here. I said, okay. That was like kind of crazy story, right?